Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I am back with my first review of 2022, which actually is still of a book that I read last year, so there's that. But that book is Dark Apprentice by Val Neal, who is a self-pub author, if I'm not completely wrong, and this is the first book in her Fall of Magic book series. This was also the buddy read for December for my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, and the book club is all about reading adult fantasy written by women and genderqueer folks. In February we're gonna buddy read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, so if you need motivation to finally jump into this series, the Farseer trilogy, the Realms of the Elderling series, then the links to the Twitter and the Discord of the book club will be linked down below. But now back to this book, and as always, this review, as all of my reviews or most of my reviews, is spoiler free, so you won't have to worry about spoilers here. I will start with a little summary and then later on get into my thoughts. However, I won't split this into negatives and positives like I usually do my reviews, but I'm probably gonna more likely split this into like writing, characters, plot, and so on in this case. But first things first, let's start with a little summary. This is an adult low fantasy, meaning it's not set in a secondary world, it is set in our world, and we follow two characters. The first of those is Nikolai, who has the ambition of becoming a great dark magician. He also wants to become immortal. Because of that, he tries to become the apprentice of Madea, who is our second character. Madea is immortal. She also is a very powerful magician. She has, because she is immortal, pretty much studied every single branch of magic, dark magic obviously as well, and she over the course of time has also had a lot of apprentices. However, she does not want to take on any more apprentices at this moment. She has a very good reason for that. Usually the apprentices that she gets want to learn about dark magic, just like Nikolai does. Also, usually, dark magicians tend to be very ambitious, tend to want to be the most powerful, so sooner or later all of her apprentices try to kill her. Which then means Madea in turn kills them, because they're all not powerful enough. Because of that, she has sworn off taking on apprentices, even though she wants nothing more than to pass all of her knowledge on. Not just the dark magic, but you know, everything, nature magic, plant magic, animal magic, all of it. And so yeah, she however is like, nah, I have enough of apprentices, don't want to take any more on. And so at the beginning of this novel we basically have those two characters meet, and Nikolai trying to convince Madea to take him on after all. And yeah, during this book we get to see how he does it. Now, as for my thoughts, the first thought is just that this is one of the most unique fantasy books that I have ever read. I will get into why I think that, but basically, you know, the trope of mentor and student, of this kind of almost magical school, even though it's not really a school, it's just, you know, Madea and Nikolai. But this trope, it's a very old trope within fantasy. However, I have never seen it done the way it was done here, and I really loved it. I had so much fun reading this book. It gets quite dark in parts. There's also quite a few trigger warnings, so I would look those up. I don't know if Val Neal has any like on her website, if she has a website at all, but I definitely would look up trigger warnings, like at least in terms of blood and gore. This does get quite graphic at times, also like body modifications and so on. So there's dark stuff in here, let's put it like that. But anyway, as I said, this is one of the most unique books that I have read in recent times. I also put it actually on my favorites of 2021 list. If you want to know all the books and also which spot this one got, I will leave that video linked down below and up there. But anyway, one of the reasons why it's so unique is the characters and the rep within this book. First of all, for both of the reps, like that Madea and Nikolai cover, I am not an own voices reviewer, so I cannot say how well done or how not well done the rep is. I can only say what my experience reading this book was, and also what Val Neal talked about writing this book in the notes at the end of this book. First, for Madea, Madea is autistic, which in this case is own voices rep. Val Neal herself is autistic. Because of that, I don't want to spend too much time on the rep itself. I would just trust that it is well done rep, that it is rep written from the author's own experience, which of course doesn't mean that this rep will cover the experience of every autistic person ever, but you know, I would still trust it that it doesn't enforce harmful stereotypes, for example, and there were none as far as I could see. In terms of my personal reaction to Madea, I absolutely loved her. I loved her as a character, I loved her as a person, I could really relate to her in some parts, and I just thought she was this really well written and amazing character who is struggling a lot, of course, with her mental health, and of course she isn't diagnosed autistic because, first of all, Madea comes from a time when autism as we know it today doesn't exist. Not that, you know, not that autism didn't exist or autistic people didn't exist, but that a diagnosis didn't exist. That's what I mean. So it's not like Madea ever says, hey, I'm autistic. However, to me, reading this book, it was still pretty clear. And so yeah, I just loved Madea a lot. The only negative thing I could say is that we almost didn't get enough of her, because while the POV chapters are split between Madea and Nikolai, Nikolai, I would say, gets more POV chapters than Madea does. And I would have loved to seen the balance a bit more even, or a bit more towards Medea's side for reasons I'll get into later on. But yeah, I just absolutely loved her, and I got her frustrations with Nikolai, and I got her frustrations with people around her, and she's just such a darling. I absolutely loved her. And then in terms of Nikolai, covers the rep of being a psychopath, so having antisocial personality disorder. Here, this is not own voices rep, however, the author did work with a psychologist as well as with someone who was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, at least according to the notes in the back. So, you know, she tried her best with the resources that she had to get Nikolai to be his own person, his own character, but also to not cover any harmful stereotypes with him. Although she does acknowledge that Nikolai, being a dark magician and thus sometimes having a few, maybe a little bit too murderous tendencies, probably plays into harmful stereotypes of people with antisocial personality disorder. But also at the same time, and that's just my own feelings, that's not like something the author said in the notes, but you know, this is dark fantasy, so everyone in this book is a murderous person. It's not just a psychopath. And so yeah, but I found personally, of course I cannot talk whether or not the rep was well done. I can only trust the author that she did her best. But in terms of what I've read from Nikolai, I thought it was a really unique experience reading from his character's perspective. Sometimes a little bit, not unsettling, but frustrating, because the way he reasoned things and the way he jumped to conclusions and the way he saw the world is just something that was very unfamiliar to me. And at the conclusion he reaches throughout the story just were really frustrating to me a lot of times. But I still appreciated being in his mind in a way. And so, yeah, but because of that, also because I sometimes found it very frustrating being in his mind, that also is part of the reason why I would have liked a few more of Medea's chapters as well, because, you know, it's just fun. So for Nikolai, I cannot really say that I liked him as a person. However, I really like him as a character, and I think he definitely is one of the most unique characters that I have ever read from. So yeah, just for both characters, absolutely top-notch characterization for me, so interesting, absolutely love them. Then in terms of plot, I would say this book is a very quote-unquote calm book. Like, a lot happens, there's a lot of tension there, but I wouldn't say that this book has one big huge climax as it is. It's more a little bit of a setup of the relationship between Madea and Nikolai, and a lot of the climax and a lot of the development that happens throughout the book is more internally with Nikolai and Madea rather than externally any plot that happens. And the plot on the outside is more there to just, you know, show the internal development. At least that's how I would put it. But I actually really enjoyed that, and I really, as I said, I just enjoyed following the two of them, and I just enjoyed seeing their relationship develop and their dynamics develop and see how they changed as characters. So I absolutely did not mind that whatsoever. What I also thought was really well done is that this first book in a series did set up, as I said, mostly the relationship between our two main characters, but at the same time there are already hints and there are already parts of this that, you know, hint at a bigger plot that's gonna go on further into the series, and it kind of shows where the plot will develop towards in the future. So I thought just the setup in this book was really well done, and I am so excited and so hopeful that we'll get to see a new book soon. This is self-published, however, so, you know, you never know with self-pub books when you'll get the next one, which is kind of tragic. But also I really understand why it is the way it is. But yeah, in terms of plot, absolutely loved it. I loved, as I said, that a lot of the plot revolves around familiar tropes. It's kind of, you know, learning magic, magical teaching, not really school, mentor-student relationship, but the way those tropes are done within this book is just absolutely unique and so new, and never have I ever seen it before. So really enjoyed that. And then the last thing I would talk about is the writing, which I guess is is something that I should have thought about, because I just left the thing where I have the least praise to say for last. But where I would put this writing is probably the type of writing that is a tool. So, you know, this isn't the book where you notice the writing for itself. It's not really purple prose, it's not really very lyrical or whatever, but it's 100% enough to get the story across. And so yeah, that's just generally where I would put the writing. A lot of people do prefer that. A lot of people think that, you know, an overly elaborate writing style takes away from the story and the plot itself. So if you're that type of person, this is definitely the book for you. But even if you're a person that very much loves beautiful writing, I also don't think that the writing in this is bad in any way, where, you know, you wouldn't enjoy the book because of the writing. So yeah, it's writing that you don't notice, basically, is what I'm saying. So yeah, that was my review for Dark Apprentice by Val Neal. If you have read this book, or if you're interested in reading this book, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media, as well as to my book club, as I just mentioned earlier, will be left linked down below as well. And with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!